This is the End Zone where we talk everything football. Let's move the chains for Alabama and Nick Saban. An 11-2 season ending with a resounding win over Jim Harbaugh's Michigan Wolverines was disappointing, which is weird to say. And I'm calling 2020 the Crimson Tide Revenge Tour because Bama is out for blood this year. Now let's look at some of the key losses before we dive into analysis of this roster and this team. Obviously, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa going to the Dolphins. You lose two first-round wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs respectively, and defensive back Xavier McKinney. The defense does lose a good bit, but to be honest, Alabama is in the tier with Ohio State and Clemson where they can constantly reload instead of rebuild year to year. So let's talk about this offense. Number 2, scoring offense. Number 3, passing, led by Mac Jones, 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He threw 2 costly interceptions versus Auburn last year, losing the Iron Bowl. And because of the spring practices and how the world is working right now, everything's going to be shorter. He actually does have a leg up over freshman sensation from Mater Dei High School, 5-star Bryce Young. But I think that Young will be ready by the end of the first half of the season to get in there because Young is a sensational quarterback. And Mac Jones just isn't the guy who I could see leading Alabama to a national championship. Now let's talk about the guy who they will be handing off to, whichever quarterback that may be, running back Naji Harris. He's a Heisman candidate, drawing comparisons to Derrick Henry. He's a more athletic version, said by Reggie Bush. Not only is he extremely physical, but his real talent is as a dangerous pass-catching threat. He's super athletic. Nearly 6 yards per carry with 13 touchdowns last year. He also had 7 receiving touchdowns. So this offense will definitely be predicated on the run. At wide receiver, Alabama has quickly become the wide receiver U for college football, and for good reason. Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle return with 1,816 total yards combined, also 20 touchdowns. Despite losing 2 first-rounders, the receiving corps should do just fine. Along the offensive line, well, they return left tackle Alex Leatherwood, who's going to be a star at the next level in the NFL. They got 2 other seniors, including Deontay Brown and Landon Dickerson. This O-line should be fine and should protect the quarterback, whoever that may be. The weakness of Alabama is definitely the defense, allowing 324 yards per game, finishing at 20th nationally. The rush defense finished, get this, 7th in the SEC, and they were scorched by Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Auburn, and LSU alike. The defense loses some key pieces, but considering how bad it was last year, I think a new defense for Pete Golding could be positive. They struggled a lot, missing tackles, especially in that run game. So let's take a look at these specific players we'll see returning. Along the defensive line, fortunately, both DJ Dale and LeBron Ray will be returning back for 2020, so we'll see if they can stay healthy. You also got Christian Barmore and Byron Young. They're expected to make big impacts. They're talented, but then again, we saw lots of missed tackles. We saw a bad rush defense last year, so we'll see if they can step that up this year along the defensive line. Linebacker, different story. They were plagued with injuries also, but probably the most important injury of the season, other than maybe Tua Tagovailoa, Dylan Moses. He's returning. He is a world-class athlete, world-class player. He's going to be in the NFL one day, and losing him last year was huge. I think that he is going to step up. The secondary loses Xavier McKinney and Trayvon Diggs, but Patrick Surtain II will return. Other than that, it's a pretty new secondary with new faces all around. Needless to say, the opener against Graham Harrell's air raid offense at USC, led by Keaton Slovis and Amon-Ra St. Brown, could be a rude awakening or a great learning experience for this group. Now that we've broken down this roster and how talented it is, let's go through the season. Opener in Dallas, Alabama versus USC. This should be an offensive shootout. It'll be a fun game, but Alabama is just too talented and too well coached to lose to the USC Trojans. I think that's going to be a fun game, but it probably is going to get out of hand. Next, Georgia State, a home game to get ready for Georgia. Georgia will play at Alabama this year. Whoever is playing quarterback for Georgia, whether it be JT Daniels or Jamie Newman, I think that Alabama has the upper hand either way, and Alabama gets the win here. Then you get another home game, third straight, Kent State. Another easy win, don't really have to say much about that. Then Alabama travels to Ole Miss to play Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. I don't think that Ole Miss has what it takes, but I think that Ole Miss will challenge Alabama's rush defense. They did it last year. They won't necessarily win, but they could give Alabama a run for their money. Then Alabama travels the second week in a row to Arkansas. Really don't need to say much about that. You probably know what's going to happen there. It's going to be a blowout. Then finally, Alabama, after 2 straight away games, has another home game hosting the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mike Leach and KJ Costello, also Kylan Hill. This could be a very fun offensive game, much like USC. We'll see how it goes, but I still think Alabama has the upper hand here just because of their talent. But I do think Mississippi State is a couple years away. Alabama then travels to play Tennessee. While I do think that Tennessee can be good in the future, I don't think this is their year to knock off the Crimson Tide. Bama gets the win. On November 7th, Alabama gets a shot at redemption playing in Death Valley against the LSU Tigers. But this is a very different LSU team. Not nearly as much talent, and I think that Alabama will crush the Tigers. Yes, crush the Tigers. Then Tennessee Martin comes to town, and that will be a blowout, finishing off the season with 2 games against pretty average teams in the SEC, Texas A&M. A lot of people have high expectations for A&M. Listen, I know that they have a lot returning, but I just don't think that Kellen Mond is going to be that next quarterback to take Texas A&M to the next level. I think that they're going to be a solid team, but not enough to beat Alabama. Then you finish the season with another redemption game hosting the Auburn Tigers, and I think that you get a win here. I don't know how Gus Malzahn can pull off 2 wins in a row versus Alabama. That would be crazy. But I think that Alabama, playing in Bryant-Denny, finishes off the season 12-0 and reaches the SEC championship. I'd love to know what you think down below. Thanks for watching the End Zone. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains.